have been spending long hours on queues at petrol stations. This is despite the fact that fuel now sells for about 300 naira per litre in different parts of the country. Promises from the Independent Marketers Association of Nigeria that the scarcity will soon come to an end have fallen flat. There seems to be a of silence as neither the government nor agencies responsible for regulating the or proffering solutions. Nigerians have now been left to grope in the dark and are now at the mercy of oil marketers who now determine how and when to supply fuel and also determine the price at which to sell. We have joining us in the studio Public Affairs Analyst, Comrade Bala Zakka. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, this matter of fuel scarcity, we've had this conversation here
Correct.
some time ago.
Correct.
And it's not going away. And the price is even the most challenging aspect. Despite paying fuel subsidy, as it is often being reported, we are still seeing the price increase, now at 300 at some point. And even some days ago, marketers are saying if subsidy is removed, the price might be at even 800 naira.
Correct.
Help us make sense of what is going on.
Yeah. No, the answers are straightforward, We've been discussing this even before the beginning or the real discussions on petroleum industry bill. We've been discussing this. I knew it. We said it. I mean, the model we have been using as Nigeria has been the wrong model. People wouldn't want to believe it. Even PIB discussions, some of us said it. The approach was wrong, And I told many people that as far as people like me are concerned, if you don't, because we lack electricity, a country of 200 million citizens, relying on less than 10,000 megawatts of electricity, there will be energy crisis. You're talking about a country of about 200 million citizens, and you're supposed to have strategic industrial sectors, strategic commercial sectors, and strategic domestic sectors working. But the last time you constructed a refinery was like 33 years ago. And you're not seeing anything wrong with that. No, you don't want to believe that you will experience energy security. I mean, you're talking about a country that within that 33 years, the current generation of Nigerian leaders didn't maintain even the refineries they inherited. And they didn't deem it fit, to construct new ones. And people are still searching for answers as to why we're going to experience energy crisis at a point. But I knew all these things. And even pre-PIB, some people will come and say it was because there was a recession. I knew we were lying to ourselves as a country. People will say it was because of coronavirus. Some people will say it was smuggling. Some people will say it was because we didn't up the price. The truth was the model was wrong. And people like me, we have now reached a cul-de-sac. Nigeria is being mocked at. Nigeria is being laughed at amongst the Committee of Nations. And I'm still waiting for those guys who were saying deregulation was going to be the way forward. Deregulation was going, subsidy, remember, where are they? I mean, like a month or two ago, some people were saying it was due to smuggling. Can they come out and say the same thing? At the point we were told that it was because there were crises around Apapa axis construction. Some people were saying we had about 1 billion barrels, liters. They have run out of, unfortunately, lies, which is unfortunate. But I feel also I feel sad for some of my professional colleagues, especially oil and gas engineers, oil and gas accountants, oil and gas lawyers, oil and gas environmentalists, oil and gas economists. And I told them, let's tell the government the truth. That will not make us not to be loyal citizens. After all, when you say you have leaders are citizens also, that other citizens decided or elected them to manage their economic, political, and social destiny in national interest. And if it is not going to be in national interest, then you will go off the track. The summary is, where is Nigeria today? Nigeria is today being described as a big country with big people, so-called educated people, but a very, very bad example. And let me tell you, any country after the main security, social security, any country not be proud to have enough or sufficiency in energy security, that country is already a failed country. And you can see the indices. We will just look at even the GDP variables. Look at the consumption index. The consumption index today is rubbish because disposable income have been eroded by inflation. You know it, I know it. Minimum wage in Nigeria today, monthly minimum wage is about 30,000 Nigerian naira. It cannot buy a 50 kg bag of rice. It cannot buy a 50-liter jerry can of diesel. But regardless of whether in Nigeria, any country you can talk about or go to where the minimum wage in that country cannot buy a 50-kilogram bag of rice or a 50-liter jerry can of diesel, that country is in trouble. We got to a point, then when you look at that's consumption index. Look at the investment index. Independent investors are not coming in. Quote me, especially in the oil and gas industry, whether in the upstream, midstream, and downstream. I challenge anybody to show me PIB, petroleum industry, when people were lying, we were lying to ourselves that they will come in. Where are they? So you look at the investment index also of the GDP is nothing to talk about. When you talk about government investment, government has been crying that they don't have money. And we know that. Then look at the export-import differential. Nigeria today is more of an importing nation than an exporting nation. Even in the area of distillates, which we technically call refined petroleum products, Nigeria has been reduced to a country where you have so much beans, but you import akara,
all right,
or moi and the rest.
So what formula, or as a way of reminding Nigerians that is or should adopt?
Thank you.
To gain success in the oil industry.
The first thing is for us to go back, look at that petroleum industry bill, Old Petroleum Industry Act, redesign it and recalibrate it. Deregulation is going to destroy Nigeria, especially in the downstream or in the oil and gas industry. I will always consign myself now to oil and gas industry. If we go to other areas, then I can talk in the context of Nigeria. What people do, I discover again, I felt this. Many people don't even know the meaning of deregulation. But you know, when you talk about public sector, public sectors can either be deregulated, they will do well. You can privatize them, they will do well. You can liberalize them, they will do well. You can commercialize them, but you must look at the sector. You see, when people are arguing, they will say the telecom sector was privatized. That's why I feel sorry. In fact, every time I hear that, I feel ashamed of myself. And you see people, so-called intelligent people talking about that. You meet people, they say, when you deregulate, I discovered many people don't know the difference between deregulation and liberalization. A lot don't know the difference between commercialization and privatization. People will tell you the telecom sector was privatized. It's not correct. It was liberalized. I discovered people will not know this. Even the major oil marketers association of Nigeria, Moman, when Moman was talking yesterday, this was the way Moman spoke. Well, they were coming up with their own reasons for the scarcity. Then they said finally that the only solution will be to deregulate the downstream oil and gas industry in order to enhance liberalization of supplies. My mind was, it's just like when in accounting, you will say shareholders fund is the same as shareholders liquidity. I just looked at it that way. Or in law, you know, when you hear people say, he is assaulting me. But when you become a lawyer, that's when you should help people to know that there is a difference between assault and battery. Yes. So when you see people talking like this, they don't know. In a deregulated economy, the price will can never, you don't decide. In a deregulated economy, what happens is that that person can sell at 1 million naira, 1,000 or 2,000 naira per liter. You can't question because it's deregulated. But the telecom sector was liberalized. The good thing about liberalization is you allow players to come in. Then you allow the government entity to remain there and compete. And if a natural death, it will die. That is why you will never see NITEL workers protesting. Because what just happened was the sector was liberalized. Other players came in. Then the government part of the telecoms couldn't compete in terms of quality, service deliverability, and it died a natural death. So if you liberalize the downstream or the downstream sector of the Nigerian oil and gas industry, one good thing about liberalization is you will still keep control. You check prices, you check qualities. But in deregulation, the only thing you control is quality control, what we call QA/QC. But you have no control over the price. But keep all this apart. You're talking about a country that is in democracy now, 23 years. Even if it will take 10 years to construct a refinery, you already knew you had energy crisis, energy security, but we are now about 22 years or 23 years. We couldn't construct a single refinery. Then the next thing I hear people talking, when they will be talking about removal of subsidy, I discover many people don't also know the meaning of subsidy. They don't know. Let me give you practical examples. The reason why you have army, navy, civil defense, and the rest is because there is a need to provide subsidy in security. That's the reason why you have them. Because even if you because some military generals, diverted funds, or they are not paying, then you just say scrap the military. Is that the way you do it? Or because your borders are porous, then the custom officials, are corrupt and diverting funds. Then the next thing you say is scrap custom. You go to like hospitals, government hospitals, the teaching hospitals, the government hospitals. There may be the medical doctors and the chief medical directors are stealing, there is corruption. Then the next thing you say, you remove government hospitals.
Because it's costing us a lot.
No, but what I'm telling you is this. You fight the inefficiencies. That's why I said, will you say you want to scrap the military or scrap the customs or scrap the hospitals? No, what you do is you fight the inefficiencies, because having government hospitals, having government military and customs is a universal thing everywhere. So subsidy now is a universally accepted pain reduction concept. If it is not working in Nigeria, that will not invalidate its global relevance. Absolutely. If you say you believe in people like Lee Kuan Yew, have you asked of Singapore, did you ask Lee Kuan Yew was subsidizing, paying school fees, transcending Singaporeans to different parts of the country, the world, to go and acquire education? There was subsidy in education. So in our own case, now, there must be subsidy in energy security. So if it is not working, but it's a global concept, what you do is you fight the inefficiencies. You don't throw away concepts that work. And let me tell you, many people will not believe it. Keep quoting me that I said refining is basic chemistry. Refining has been there before I was born. Anything outside the principle of temperature differentials, boilers, fractionating columns, and sweeteners to differentiate between maybe cooking gas, petrol, diesel, anything outside that, these concepts I've explained is cosmetic.
Right. The matter of that, I want you to really speak to, because you said we should fight the inefficiencies. What are these inefficiencies? Has been unable to fight it, and we are seeing that it has become a burden such that almost all the presidential candidates are saying this is robbery, so to speak. We must take it out.
Many of them don't even understand how the concept works. Let me explain to you. This subsidy we are they couldn't fight subsidy. Ask them, why have they not been able also to construct a single refinery? And it is only in Nigeria that I hear people saying government is not a good in business. Government is not good in business. But the same government that is not good in business will claim to be good in managing revenues. Have you seen where that works? If you don't know how to do good business, who told you you can manage revenues? Because if the money comes, revenues come, they come. So if you are not a good businessman, between you and I, you will not be able to manage the revenues. And that tells you any amount that comes, government will not be able to manage it. And that is why with all the revenues that have been accruing, we've not been able to diversify. Diversification of economy is not a function of having so many things. Even if you have one source, just like in the Middle East, what do they have in the Middle East? You only have desert. It's only desert you have in the Middle East, and then crude oil or gas. It is the creativity, the vision of the leaders that made them to have things like this. I've been involved in so many discussions in this. I will tell them, okay, look at it. Let me just go a little bit, deviate a bit. The whole of Nigerian coast, you know, from Akwa Ibom, Bayelsa, you come, River State, down, coming to Lagos, Ondo and the rest. You see water everywhere, but we don't have drinking water. And I tell them, why are we not having desalination plants? Desalination plants are like big refineries. As big as you have big refineries, you go to the Middle East, they tap water from the sea, salty sea. They treat this water and they have sufficiency. If you go to the United Arab Emirates, or you go to Libya and the rest, all those places, they have places, desalination plants that look like refineries. Look at the coastal waters in Lagos. Go to River State, go to Bayelsa. You have water, you don't have clean drinking water. That tells you the way we also reason. So it is the lack of creativity. If you don't fight the inefficiencies, you will not succeed. And that was why I said, for me, even some of our politicians, between you and I, are people who you just see somebody, and I said, if you are not a good, you should never be allowed to be a good.
What are these inefficiencies that government is supposed to have fought?
Simple. All of us, I want to believe at one point or the other, we've done what we call computer programming. Or there is something they call flow chart. All you need is a simple flow chart. You know, in a flow chart, you have a start and an end in a program. The expectation is when you start from the beginning, you must get to the end. And if something does not happen, you put an algorithm, you continue to search until you stamp it out, but you must get to the end. If you put that, whether in the upstream sector, in the midstream, or in the downstream sector, you will see the problems. And one mistake a lot of people are making is that people think the guys you see in NNPC, those staff are the people. No! It is an external influence, because I have met great guys. I have class. In fact, before I came for, I spoke to 5 Nigerians. Among those 5 Nigerians, 3 are working in 3 different refineries outside the country. We were just laughing at one another. It's only in Nigeria when you want to talk about government fixing the refineries, government differentiating between the crude oil you are going to put through, as feed to state-owned refineries and the one you will sell at international price and international market. It is only in Nigeria people will be modeling the whole things and calling countries that shouldn't be compared with Nigeria. I ask simple questions. Why is Nigeria not as organized as Saudi Arabia? Why? Because I'm talking about oil-producing nation now. Why is Nigeria, the oil industry of Nigeria, not working like the one in Libya, like the one in Malaysia, like the one in Indonesia, like the one in Norway, like the one in Iraq and even Iraq? The only answer is they will go and call Venezuela. A Venezuela that is confronting a superpower. If that superpower faces Nigeria, Nigeria will cease to exist. So all we need to do is to make sure we look at this inefficiency, and the inefficiencies are very simple. And one danger many people don't know, and that's why I said I felt sorry for my professional colleagues that are not talking. It is even worse in the upstream sector of the oil and gas industry. The upstream sector is very organized. But you see this energy crisis? This energy crisis is a big injury to them. Because when you go, all the drilling rigs on the land, then when you go to the swamp locations and you go deep offshore, for those who are in Lagos, if you go to a place like Marina, opposite the former post office, all those rigs you see, do you know they are running on diesel? All of them are running on diesel, whether contracts or not. Then at the rate of 800 to 900 naira per liter, even before your driver brought me to this station, I can come up with a likely estimate of the tens of thousands of naira that TVC spent. Let me just give you a quick example. So much money was spent to speak to me on the phone. Everybody knows the traffic in Lagos today. Your driver spent close to 2 hours to get to my destination. Look at your driver's time. Look at the traffic. Look at the petrol. He spent almost the same time to bring me here. I came, I was served here. When I entered, everywhere was cool and quiet. Because of the air condition, I can tell you the amount of diesel you have spent. Look at your driver's time. Look at the money. Look at the petrol. Then the air condition and everything. And you are likely to attend to probably 10 or more guests in a day. At that rate, can you break even? So tell me how the airlines will break even. Now that you've removed subsidy in the price of aviation fuel, tell me, apart from mass sack and mass cancellation, for the diesel, tell me. That's why the banks will open at 9 o'clock and close at 3 o'clock. It's because of diesel problem. As at yesterday, let me drop on this. As at yesterday, many ATMs were not working. The reason was because the owners couldn't afford even petrol. It's becoming too expensive. And any country where energy cost is so high, if you don't have energy security between you and I, you will be deceiving yourself on anything that has to do with development or industrialization.
Well, the picture you have painted about all of these, and the irony is that everything you have mentioned, they are so connected that is the economy. If one doesn't work and the other doesn't work and the other doesn't work, then it makes it a very complex or complicated situation.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Now, you talked about the issue of liberalization.
Yes.
We have seen the much celebrated Dangote refinery coming up upstream. Of course, it may or may not have the solution to all of the energy issues in Nigeria. But
Correct.
the coming up upstream of Dangote refinery, would you consider that a liberalization that will help the country one way or the other?
Yes and no.
Okay.
The reason is this, and first of all, this is one thing I keep saying. Do you know these days, when people go to the toilet, they are praying for Dangote. You are having your shower for Dangote. You are in your churches and mosque, you pray for Dangote. I don't have a problem with that because Dangote is a fellow Nigerian.
Yeah.
So as an individual or a corporate citizen, I know he will comply with his civic responsibilities of paying taxes and levies, and that will be good for Nigeria. But the biggest mistake people are making again is that it is not private entities that provides goods and services. It is government. Private entities are after profit maximization and cost minimization. And this is the reason. Everybody is saying, God bless Dangote. God bless Dangote. Yes, I'm also praying to God to bless Dangote. But have you asked Dangote where he got the funds from? Dangote must have gotten the funds from shareholders. It must have been probably shareholders' funds or monies from the creditors. And if it is from the shareholders, the only way Dangote Refinery or Dangote Industries will remain afloat is you must pay them what we call dividend. And the only way you can pay dividend to your shareholders is by maximizing profit. It's not because you love Nigeria. You must maximize profit because if not, the shareholders will pull out their funds and you will be in trouble. Then if you got these funds from creditors like banks or financial institutions, that is what we call cost of debt, which is interest. You must one day pay them back their capital. Then you must pay them the interest on the debt. So the only way you can do that as Dangote or the Dangote refinery is you must maximize profit. But this is something that Dangote is coming to breach. And that's why we need many Dangotes in health. We need many Dangotes in education. If you have many Dangotes in education, there will be no need for capital flight in education. If you have in health tourism will reduce. So we need many Dangotes and even of Nigerian extraction. But the benefit of having a Dangote is this. Since Nigeria, as an OPEC country, decides that we will shamelessly continue to go to another country that probably does not have crude oil, you understand, to go there and import our distillates, which I mean diesel, petrol, kerosene, or aviation, import, then pay for insurance, pay for vessel, pay for security, come here and start looking for depots rather than refining internally here and pipe the refined products through wagons and pipelines to the respective states. Dangote will help to cut off that cost, you know, because the proximity now to the point of supply has been shortened. Then for Dangote too, if everything, there is a good understanding, all the crude that will be coming, I will not expect him to bring crude from Libya or Niger Republic, you know, or Angola. He's likely to get the crude from the oil wells in Nigeria. That will help the operator. So all he needs also for him, the distance of getting the crude has been shortened. You know, they will just be piped or taken by rail or train to him. So everything will be a win-win situation. But people should always remember that private initiatives are private initiatives because you must keep either your shareholders or your creditors happy. And that means you must maximize. The only body that takes care of citizens is the government. And that is why I tell people, every economy you go to, especially emerging economies, government is supposed to be the biggest debtor because the plan is to make sure they grow the industry. They subsidize education to build human capital. You know, you subsidize health to build good hospitals. You subsidize sports to build good sportsmen and be like Brazil. And the same government is supposed to be the biggest investor initially. Because when you invest initially, then whether in refineries and what, by the time the country becomes strong, you can run your country as a capitalist nation. Then government also is supposed to be the biggest customer. That is why you go to other countries when farmers grow their proceeds and it's like the business will collapse. Government will do what? Scoop, so that they don't feel discouraged. It is only in Nigeria. But the strange thing also, sir, between you and I is that Nigeria is a member of gas exporting country forum, which is another strong cartel like OPEC with headquarters in Qatar. I mean Doha, Qatar. Ask me, is Nigeria as lit as Qatar? The answer is no. That simple gas you are seeing, from gas alone, you will be able to get ammonia. From ammonia, you will get urea. From urea, you will get fertilizer. The fertilizer that we used to buy in my place in Zamfara and Kaduna at 3,000 is now about 25,000 Nigerian naira, which will meanwhile this volume of gas. That same gas alone, you can use it to drive gas turbines and generate electricity. Quote me that I said, if you have electricity not at the filling station, whether on diesel, kerosene, and aviation fuel, and you can make a liter 50 naira, nobody will even bother to buy. It will now be left for cars. But today, petrol or diesel is not for cars. It's for energy generation. There has been no light in my house, and I cannot afford diesel. And it's the same thing with the barbing salon owner, with the hairdresser and the rest. Right. And one shameful thing again is, I hear people say, you are subsidizing consumption. It's also something that makes me feel sad. That thing you think is a consumption to you, when you go to a barber, he needs that petrol as a catalyst to make him generate funds. That same business center, to you, you are subsidizing consumption. But it is that petrol they need the generators and provide services.
All right. A complex situation it is that we have found ourselves, unfortunately. But we need to wrap up this conversation now. We must thank you, Public Affairs Analyst, Comrade Bala Zakka, for your time on the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's been an interesting run today, but